Morning guys, I am not feeling my best self today. I'm going to be honest, a little bit tired. We've had a slight incident. So my cats, I've got Sophie, Hal, Sen and Jazz. You've met most of them in videos before. But about 4 days ago, Sen went missing. So usually my cats stay indoors during the day. They like sleep on the couch. They, you know, just hang out in the house. And then at night time they get fed and they go out hunting for the night. And my cats are really invested in food. Like most cats, it's unheard of for them not to turn up for feeding time. And it came to the evening and I put the food down and Sen didn't show up. Now, she's a little bit late because she gets distracted. She goes off chasing lizards and doing her thing. And so sometimes I have to call a couple of times for her to come back. But I called and she didn't come back. And I thought, well, okay, she'll come back in the morning for breakfast. And she wasn't there. And so that evening, I went on a tour of the neighbourhood, like calling for her, and nothing. So, I mean, if you're a cat owner, you're a dog owner, you're a pet owner, you know that feeling when one of them disappears, because it's not normal. You know what their routine is, and cats are creatures of routine, and, you know, if they don't turn up, you know something is a little bit amiss. So yeah, I went into a huge emotional slump, didn't get much sleep because I was sitting there going, where is she, where is she? And then on the third morning, my other cat, Hal, woke me up. He was at my window going like, "Wah, wah, wah." And I sort of went, oh, Hal, what is it? What is it? And I came outside. It was like a scene from Lassie. It's like, what's that? Johnny's down the well, you know, and I rushed outside and there was Sen on top of the compound wall. So my garden, in Africa we call it a compound. So in the UK we call it a yard, where, you know, it's your private space, your private area, and mine is surrounded by a very, very high wall. And she was sitting on top of the wall and I knew something was a bit weird because she wasn't coming down. And I went over and, you know, she still wasn't coming down. I could see that she was limping a little bit. So I came inside and I got a chair and I held the chair up to the top of the wall and she climbed onto it and I lowered it down and I brought her inside. I carried her inside. And that's when I knew there was something really wrong. So sometimes cats jump off walls, sometimes they get a sprain, and, you know, if you leave it a few days, it gets better. But very quickly I knew this wasn't just a normal sprain. It was her back leg, left leg, I think it was, her back left leg, right leg. I can't tell when I'm looking the other way on. But her back leg she wasn't able to put any weight on it, and not only that, but she wouldn't get up off the floor. She spent the entire day lying on my cardigan, not moving. You know, I bring her water, I brought her food, but she wouldn't get up. And even cats that have got a bit of a poorly paw, they still try to wander around. But I had a good look and I couldn't see anything sticking out. I couldn't see any wound. I couldn't see anything like that. So I contacted the vet and I said, you know, what do you think I should do? And they said, well, look, if it's still like this tomorrow, bring her in. So I took her in yesterday morning. And, you know, she had a full examination. Again, couldn't really see anything wrong, but decided to x-ray it just to make sure. And I'm so glad that we did. And I'm so glad that the veterinary surgery had an x-ray. So they had to pop her under sedation so she would lie perfectly still. They x-rayed her. And when the x-ray came back, it wasn't good news, I'm afraid. She has, I have no idea how, managed to shatter her femur right at the top of her hip, and the whole bone is broken and there are shards of bone in there. And I have no idea how she could have done that. I mean, my first thought was, did she get onto the road? Was she hit by a car? But again, there's no other sign of injury. So, you know, I was thinking, was she attacked by something? Was she, you know, we have some big birds here and, you know, one could have dropped her. But, you know, again, no other visible signs of injury. So it seems like she's fallen and she's just smacked it. I don't know if her medication has something to do with that, because she has asthma. So she takes, and I can never pronounce this, it's a drug beginning with P that is very hard to pronounce, and you take it for asthma. So every 2 days she takes a little bit of medicine. She's very good. She'll actually come, she knows when it's time, she'll come, she'll put her paws up and she'll just take the medicine, a little bit of food, and she's the easiest cat in the world to look after. But the long-term effect of that can be weaker bone structure. But I talked to the vet about that and he said, that's unlikely. You know, so, you know, I think maybe it wasn't that. I think maybe she would have broken it anyway. But yeah, she's had a pretty tough life, and I'll probably tell you about that a bit later on. All of my cats are rescue cats, but she had a particularly difficult time. So anyway, the reason today is not going to be much fun is that today she's having an operation. She's in very safe hands. The vet is very well qualified and they've got all of the latest equipment and all of the latest anaesthesia. But still, it's a major operation, and you know, providing she makes it through that, which she will. Sorry, she's going to need to stay in the hospital, in the clinic, for 2 weeks, and when she comes home, she's going to need at least 1.5 months of, you know, home care before she's allowed to go out or do anything at all. So it's going to be a major operation. Yeah, so I just thought I'd update you on that, and there might not be as many videos as usual, just because I'm going to be focusing on Sen and her recovery. Wish me luck. I'm not going to leave you hanging. I'm going to end this video with an update on, you know, how the procedure went, because that wouldn't be very fair of me to go, yes, my cat's going in for a major operation, radio silence. I'm going to let you know how it goes, because we'll know by the end of today. I'm going there at 9 o'clock to put down some cash for the operation, and to talk to the vet, and to hopefully see her and just, you know, let her know that I love her. And then we should know by the end of the day how the operation, you know, went, whether she got through it. Talk to you later. The vet's asked me to take her asthma medication as well, so I'm just popping that in the bag, and I'll leave that with them to make sure that she gets her pills. Also going to take this scarf for her because it smells of me, but I don't know if she'll be allowed to have it straight away, because I think she'll probably need to be in a sterile environment after the operation. But yeah, so something that smells of home. So I've just been to the vet, and they talked me through everything that's going to happen. It is a major operation. She's going to need pins. She's going to need metal pins through her bone. She's going to need possibly a metal plate, depending how much bone is left. There are shards in there that need to be attached. So it's major. I dropped off the medication, I dropped off the scarf. I asked if I could see her, but they advised me it's better not, because she's just about to go under anaesthetic, and you know, it might might upset her. It would certainly upset me. So so yeah, I'm just heading home. I decided I needed a walk, so I'm just going to have a little wander home, just to clear my mind and wait to find out how it goes. Just walking home along by the golf course, and they've recently turned this into a running track, so I'm not sure if I'm supposed to be walking down it. I think it is for running, but I really like walking on the green tarmac, so why not? But it's a beautiful, beautiful golf course, and there's some beautiful birds. I don't have a good enough camera from this distance, but there's a whole load of black and white kingfishers and giant storks, and it's really pretty around here. Thankfully I'm not the only person walking. I've passed a couple of others. That's nice, there's some little benches to sit down. Nice place to rest. The smell of this asphalt is taking me right back to gym class in school. I definitely am glad that I came out for a walk. I definitely needed this. A little bit of physical exercise really helps to clear the mind. Okay, so just down there is the road that we first started coming down. We've come all the way up and around and down here, and I feel that somewhere further down here there should be a cut through towards my road. Yep, I was totally right. If I cut across here, then I go up towards the road that I need to be on. That was a really, really, really pleasant walk, because usually you go, instead of going that way, you come down this road and you just go up and down the tarmac, which is faster, but it's not so much fun, not so pretty. So yeah, that was just a really nice little walk, green and very natural, and lots of birds. It was nice. So I'm almost home now. Sit and wait for the phone to ring. Well, that was lucky, that was good timing. I literally just stepped through the door and the heavens have opened. Time for a cup of tea. So it's about 20 to 7 in the evening. I left the clinic at around 20 to 10, and they said that Sen was about to be prepped for surgery. I haven't heard anything yet. So I tried contacting the surgeon to see how it was going, but I didn't get a reply. So I called the clinic, and they told me that he is still in surgery. Now, whether with Sen or with another client, I don't know. I'm assuming it's with Sen because I think I would have had an update if she was out by now. So yeah, I'm still waiting to hear what's going on. On the one hand, I'm really relieved because if he's still operating on Sen, then, you know, she's still with us. And on the other hand, you know, that's about 8 hours that she's been in there. If he's been operating that whole time, I don't know, but you know, either way, that's a really, really long time, and she's very, very little. And you know, it just, oof, I'm just really looking forward to hearing something. So yeah, I've spoken before about being pagan, and I've spoken about having made a transition from that to humanism. And yeah, I don't class myself as religious, or even particularly spiritual anymore, to be honest, but old habits. So I went to a largely Gujarat school until I was 9 years old, so Hinduism was quite a big part of that, as well as Christianity. Christianity never stuck, thankfully. But you know, old habits. I am going to light my little lamp up there. I find it's more of an intellectual exercise nowadays, but it's just, you know, sometimes nice to have a little bit of light and something to focus on. And so I'm just gonna do that because why not? You know, doesn't hurt, doesn't involve anybody else, doesn't affect anybody else. So I think that's probably the best type of spirituality. So yeah, in the UK, these are not the gods I kept. Even though I went to school in a majority Gujarat school, we celebrated, by law in those days, you had to have a Christian assembly. So we celebrated a Christian assembly, but then we also celebrated Diwali, and that was far more entertaining. But yeah, so in the UK, I had different gods. I realised that when I moved to Africa, I couldn't really bring them with me because the gods in the UK are very, very related to the seasons and the changing of the seasons, to the weather and to the landscape. And of course, here we don't have seasons, not in the same way, and the landscape is very different, and even the directions are in a different direction because we're very slightly on the southern hemisphere here. So it didn't really make a lot of sense, and it didn't really feel like it connected. And in Rwanda, the traditional gods in Rwanda, Christianity has pretty much flattened that in the past 100 years, so you don't tend to hear much about them, and people aren't open to talking about it most of the time. So, you know, you can't really learn a lot about the sort of the native spiritual landscape pre-Christianity. Or if you do hear about it, it tends to be more as myth and legend, you know, rather than living gods. So I went with the Hindu gods. In paganism, you can do that. There's quite an interesting tract. There was a guy called Phil Hine. Well, he still is Phil Hine. He hasn't gone anywhere as far as I'm aware, but he wrote a tract on chaos magic, which was a very interesting idea that, you know, it doesn't really matter which pantheon you use so long as the gods have some connection for you. And I think that's a very pagan move throughout history. I mean, I write about ancient Mesopotamia now, and they were constantly swapping, changing, renaming gods. You know, it really didn't matter. What matters was sort of the internal connection that you have to those concepts and to those sort of energies. Yeah, and just to reiterate once more, I'm a humanist. Yeah, this is just something that is nice. and I like it. I like the ritual of it. It's a bit like smoking. When I was a smoker, I like the ritual of it, especially rollies. You know, there's kind of a catharsis in doing something that is familiar to you, especially in times of stress. So anyway, this is what I'm doing. That was the sound of my phone. Let's go and see what it says. Okay, so the moment that I lit the votive candle, my phone's just gone. Let's see. It's from the surgeon. Hello. We just finished the surgery and she survived the anesthesia. I used bone plating instead of external fixers. So that's a slightly more expensive option, but it's the better option. It means that she's going to have a much better chance at fully healing. Oh, thank everybody. Thank Ganesh, thank you Lakshmi, thank you Nataraj for keeping your foot in the air, and thank you Saraswati Vaneshwari, patron of writers and artists. Well, that worked quickly, didn't it? All right, she's all right, guys, she's all right. She's well, she's not out of the woods yet. You know, she's gonna have a lot of healing, a lot of pain medication to get through. But she's alive, and that's the starting point. She's alive. All right, well guys, that's the end of this video, I guess. You can probably expect quite a few more videos about how my cat's leg is healing in the future. Fingers crossed.